Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the go-to platform where faith-driven entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and experts share their stories, wisdom, and expertise to inspire and impact others. This isn't just another interview series. This is a strategic platform designed to amplify the voices of high-level entrepreneurs, which especially includes kingdom entrepreneurs who are making a real difference in their industries. My goal is simple: to serve you, the expert, by giving you a stage to share your message, expand your reach, and create lasting value for others. Through authentic, in-depth conversations, we uncover the real journeys, challenges, and victories behind today's leading experts. Each interview isn't just content. It's a powerful asset that helps you to establish authority, increase visibility, and connect with the right people. So with that, let's dive into today's episode. Once again, welcome. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another expert episode with Ken. And today I have special guest, Dr. Scott. And Dr. Scott, his journey into acupuncture began in the 1980s through martial arts and self-treatment. After losing his mother to a rare cancer in the 1990s, he set out to uncover the truth about health and longevity. He earned his acupuncture degree in 2014, overcoming an addiction to pain meds along the ways using Chinese medicine. In 2019, he completed his master's in Chinese medicine. Now, Dr. Scott helps baby boomers manage their perpetual neuropathy, high blood pressure, and chronic illness to live healthier and more abundant lives. Welcome, Scott. I am so excited to have you on today's show. You've already been on my other show, Total Truth Show, with my co-host Aldwin, and now you're here. So let's start by unpacking your story. Let's start by sharing all the pieces and parts to that, and then we will go from there.
Thanks very much, Ken, for having me on. Much appreciate the time, and hopefully I can give the audience some gold nuggets of information. So give them some value. That'd be appreciated.
Absolutely. So unpack your story, my friend.
Well, yeah, in the 80s, I was a teenager and I started training in Taekwondo, Korean martial art, and our teacher at the time, Master Moon Lee, he was teaching the students Korean hand acupuncture. So just like reflexology, in reflexology they use the foot as a map of the body.
Yes.
Well, the Koreans use the hand as a map of the body. So we're punching each other, kicking each other, and we're hurting each other, bruising, and I do some points. So as I learnt from him, because I thought, well, let's see if it works, and it actually did. I was actually like, wow, this actually does feel better. And I get the flu or something like that, get a cold, and I do some points again for the flu, and I wouldn't get over it straight away, but it'd be a lot faster than what I would normally take to recover.
Mm.
So then, but of course, cost a lot of money to learn, and I thought my father said, "No, we're not paying for that anymore." So I only went to one lesson.
Wow.
And it cost a lot of money. It was like $500 in those days. That was like close to a month's wage. So he knocked that one on the head very quickly. So then I thought, well, I might go back and learn it later. We'll see what happens. So then, then in 1994, my mother passed away from a rare type of cancer called urethra cancer. So that's where we pee out of, and it's metastasized. So that means it spread really fast, and it went into a bladder, went into her kidneys, then it flowed into her liver, and when it got into her liver, that was it. So from diagnosis to death, it was 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, they just kept cutting away. They kept cutting things out. And the of course, during this 6 week period, I'm like, going up every 2 or 3 days to see her. And because I was working at the time, I was 22 years of age. And I said, I'd asked the surgeon, so, well, how can we prevent this? And they just look at me like, what? We don't know.
Uh-huh.
Uh, what causes this? We're not sure.
Again. Uh-huh.
Uh, True. It was, and in the end, it was so demoralizing for them because they realized that, you know, I'd go back and research it a little. In those days, you had to go to a library. You couldn't go to you couldn't jump on the internet and check it out. There was no Dr. Google. So you had to go to a library and start reading. So I started reading about it. And I'd say to them, why don't you try this? And they would, no, no, not doing it. So see what I'm saying? I was like, I was so frustrated. I was like, this is not medicine. They're so narrow. The thought they only look through a toilet roll. And if you fit in that toilet roll, you're healthy. But anything outside of that toilet roll, we don't know, or we just don't want to know. So anyway, so that was it. That's when I went on a quest to learn as much as I could about health and longevity and living abundantly, not in pain and agony all the time. So then in the early 2000s, I actually, it was the late 90s, I started working in security, and I was doing shift work. So I'll get back to that in a minute because that's important. Shift work is not good for your health. Found
Hmm.
out.
Interesting.
Anyway, funny that. Anyway, and then in 2003, I started my acupuncture degree because I found out that the government was actually lending money. We call it HEX over here. In the States, they call it something else. It's a loan basically to
Right.
go to university. And yeah, and then I thought, well, why not? I might as well do this. And I started doing it part time. I didn't do it full time. And in 2008 was an important year because I got a job in a hospital as a security officer. And that's when I realized I can really learn what conventional medicine learns and what I have to learn because I was in that environment. I was learning exactly what they are practicing, and it was fantastic. I did that for 10 years. I relinquished my security license in 2018. And anyway, in the meantime, so from 2008 to 2014, I was still doing my degree, but I was still asking questions after that, right, up until 2018. But I get an assignment, I'd go straight to the emergency because I became good friends with some of the consults,
Yeah.
the emergency consults. So these guys are not, they're not slouches when it comes to doctors. These are the elite doctors, the consults. So they've been doing emergency medicine 20 plus years. Most of them, it's like 30 years. There's some like one of them, he looked like he was only 40, but he's really 50 years of age. But um, he'd worked in many different fields. Like he worked in the military. He worked in Doctors Without Borders. So he was really experienced. He was an experienced doctor, and he had seen everything you can think of when it
Hmm.
came to disease. So I'd go and ask him. I'd go and talk to him about what I'm trying to learn, and he was just like he was always blunt with me. He was always like, "Yeah, no, no, you shouldn't do. Don't go down that path. Try and research this path." So because he knew what to look for and what not to look for. Because it was a really good relationship because I could understand uh, that he wasn't biased. He was like, he was limited to what he could do. He realized that, and he knew that there was other ways of treating disease
Hmm.
because he worked in third world countries, so they were limited to what they could give them. So then they'd have to use what they had, around them. So he was smart. He was a highly intelligent. I'd like to know what his IQ was, but he's a pretty intelligent guy. So I asked a lot of questions, and I got to see what they do, firsthand. I got to see it. And don't get me wrong, conventional medicine is fantastic at acute medicine. What do I mean by that? You split your head open, you cut your hand off, on an accident, you break an arm, you knock your eye out or something like that. They're really good at putting you back together. They're
Yeah,
fantastic at it.
I'll give them that
They're fan-
much. That's pretty
they're
much the only leeway that I give them.
Yeah. They're fantastic at that. They're really, really good at that. They're really good at putting you under um, unconscious. They're really good at doing that too. They know exactly how to figure out how much of a dose of a drug to get you unconscious. They're really good at that. Because see, you got
In
to
most cases, not in all cases. My mom actually had an
yeah,
experience at one time where she
yeah.
woke up midway through what they were trying to do, and
Yep.
and they
And
did
I
nothing
saw
about
that.
it.
I saw that actually. I saw a guy jump up on the table,
Yeah.
standing up, dancing.
Oh my
I
goodness.
think this is in recess. He's semi-conscious. He's semi-conscious, but he's up and about, and they're like, oh, we got to give him some more. So yeah, they're only human beings. They're only human beings. They make
Mhm.
mistakes. Um, but because you got to, so my point is, so in the old days, before anesthesia, before morphine and opioids, they used alcohol. But the problem with alcohol was it's a blood thinner, so there's a pretty good chance you'll probably bleed out
Yeah.
from the surgery. So when they realized that morphine was a much better drug to use to put someone unconscious, they yeah. But and yeah, but when it comes to anything chronic, it's not very good. It's pretty much like talking to a 5-year-old. Yeah, we'll give you a hug and we'll make you feel better. And here's a script. Here's some drugs for you. So I got to see that firsthand, and that was magical to see that. See what they could do in emergency, and then I go up into the wards, and that's when you see the mm, how can I put it? It's the deterioration of society, basically, because
Mm-hmm.
everything's a band-aid. There's no cure.
Exactly.
It's all take something for the rest of your life, and hopefully you don't have any side effects. Oh, that's right. If you do get a side effect, we're going to have to give you another drug, cover up the first side effect of the first drug,
Yeah.
and then it's just a dominoes effect. So that's why you see an 80-year-old and they're taking 15 different types of medications, and then you think to yourself, which one's working and which isn't? I mean, the doctors must be thinking, I probably don't know which one's working, what's not. But anyway, so I'll just continue. So then I was a sucker for punishment in 2016. I went back to uni and started my master's degree. I got my acupuncture and started practicing at home and just doing it part time. I was still working at the hospital. And but there was something that happened as well. So because I was doing shift work, like I said before, I've been doing for close to 15 years at this
Mhm.
stage. I couldn't sleep for a damn. I was no, I was lucky to get 2 or 3 hours a day, a night, and I realized, and the thing was, because I worked at the hospital, we had our own. We call them general practitioners here, GPs. They call them MDs over there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the employees had their own MDs. So I just walk into his office every few weeks, and he'd say to me, "What do you want? What do you want this week?" So it was. So he had me on temazepam, which is Valium. Uh, I tried diazepam, but it just turned into a zombie. Temazepam had a shorter half life. It doesn't stay in your bloodstream as long. Um, Panadine Fort. So Panadine Fort is codeine plus paracetamol, and of course codeine is an opioid, but it's got a side effect, which is what it'll make you drowsy. And also I took melatonin tablets. And then what I'd have to do is every 2 to 3 days, I'd have to take one of them, so melatonin, for instance, and then 3 days I'd be like, this is not working. So then I'd have to try something else. I'd have to try Panadine Forte for a few days, and then I'd have to try temazepam for a few days. So you see what I'm saying? And then I realized if this is where it got really dangerous. I realized that if I had alcohol with it, it heightened the effects of the drugs that I was taking. And the problem with that is then you're self-medicating because you're not taking the advice, the advice of your MD. So that's when I realized I need to stop this. And the way that I did that was using acupuncture first. So I started to slowly, because you can't come off those drugs too quickly, especially the Valium. Valium is a highly addictive drug. And same with the opioid.
Mm-hmm.
So I slowly got myself. So of course, then I was researching about serotonin and melatonin levels in the bloodstream, and so I started doing acupuncture on myself every day. And then in 2015, that's when I started learning about herbs because I'd already graduated by then, and I just registered.
Mm-hmm.
I started learning about herbs because I realized that if I had herbs, it'd be the ultimate. I'd have my master used to say, one of my teachers, she used to say, it's like skiing. When you go skiing, if you use one hand, you'll get there, but it'll take a long time. If you use two hands, you get there so much faster. So it's the same thing. So one's acupuncture, one's Chinese medicine, Chinese herbal medicine. So that's what she's saying. If you use both together, it works so much better, so much faster. So then I started learning about herbs, and then I started taking herbs. I use the granules too. I use the powdered form. It seems to be a lot easier to consume. You can have it with something else. With raw herbs, you got to boil it up, and oh god, the whole house stinks for months on
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
And you got to drink the decoction. And at least with the powdered stuff, you can cover up the taste with something else. I use a protein supplement shake, and yeah, so that I slowly wean myself off all those medications, and then I take acupuncture. I get acupuncture. I do it to myself, and I use Chinese herbal medicine. So the method that I use is very different to what most acupuncturists use. So for instance, if you've got a neck problem, I don't put the needles in your neck. I'd actually put them in your scalp on the top here, or in your hands, or in your feet. So there's two reasons why I do that. So number one is I can't make it worse. Isn't that great?
Yeah, that is.
So if I don't stick them in your neck, I can't make it worse. Yeah. So number two is immediately it works. So if I stick the needles in your neck, you can't move your neck around. True.
Yeah.
But if I put them in your hands or in your scalp, you move your neck around, you go, what? What's going on? Pain's gone. So because I use that method, I can treat myself. I don't needle above the elbow, so I can needle from the hand to the elbow, and I don't needle from the above the knee. So from the knee down to the feet, I can do that, and obviously I can put the needles in my scalp as well. So I can treat myself. And the herbal medicine, well, once a year I go and see another practitioner that I know, and I get him to feel my pulse, and I just get him to tell me what's going on internally, and then I just take herbs to fix that up. So yeah, I finished that master's degree. I live in Brisbane in Australia, and I had to fly. So it'd be like I don't know, it'd be like going from uh, right up the top where New York is, and
Mhm.
flying down to Florida.
Ah.
That's what it'd be. So I had to fly down to Melbourne to do my master's degree, and I did that for 3 years part time. And yeah, that's when I finished that. And Yeah, that's when I realized that I can help so many people. Like I said, we're using the two hands, the ski, and like you said, now I'm helping the baby boomers because in Australia it's very similar to the States. So one third of our population over the age of 65, so almost one in three over the age of 65 have type 2 diabetes.
Mm,
That's pretty bad.
that
And
is.
and 50% of those people, 50% uh, have peripheral neuropathy. So that's where the periphery is the hands and feet. So peripheral and neuropathy is where the neurons actually generate. So basically, the blood isn't getting around the body properly. It's not supplying the oxygen and nutrients to the neurons. So what happens is they degenerate, and then they get immense pain basically, and there's tingling. They get these weird sensations, tingling, numbness, and pain. And when it's really bad, you'll see it. You'll see their hands and feet will be really red. And yeah, it's not nice. It's like gout all over the feet, all over the hands. If anyone's had gout before, that's not nice either.
Mm-mm.
So you can imagine that, if someone's got gout and I use my method, it's fantastic because I'm not putting the needle anywhere near the affected toe or the foot. So if they've got the problem in their hands and feet, then I go for the scalp. I put the needles in the scalp. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's I'm just trying to help as many of the baby boomers live an abundant life because the way the numbers are talking to us at the moment is the trajectory isn't good. I mean, even for us, like us, Ken, in 10, 20, 30 years, you know, the people that grew around us, they're going to be affected as well. Because I mean, people are getting affected at a younger age because it's systemic. I mean, it can't be the medical system that's helping because the numbers are getting worse. If the numbers weren't getting worse, I'd say okay, the medical system is helping, but it's not because the numbers are getting worse. If that makes any sense.
No, it totally makes sense. And I wrote down a note to, kind of talk about this and lean into that. I wrote a whole article on, and it's on the blog portion of my website on what happens when you listen to most doctors' nutritional advice. You can pretty much imagine how that article went. But one of the things that I mention in that article, right? One of the things that I mention in that article is exactly what you just said. See, the thing of it is the good and sad part about it is that most people indeed are following the nutritional advice of their doctors. Yet diabetes, obesity, overweight issue, mortality issues are at an all-time high, and they're not leveling off. They're getting much, much, much worse. You have 18 million people that are dying every year from coronary heart disease. I mean, I could list off a ton of different things that's going on. You have 75% of Americans that are overweight and obese. And then let's take that number worldwide. You have over 45% of the world's population that is overweight and obese. What does that translate into? Now, 45%, I've been told by a number of people that that's a very conservative number, and it most likely is. But what is 45% of the world's population? So a world's population, 8.25 people, 45% of that is 3.82 billion with a B people. That is a staggering, shocking number. Yeah, I was recently, I think I was on an interview with somebody, or I was on a boot camp session with somebody that they were going through my program and I was coaching them. And I remember saying, I think, yeah, it was a boot camp session. I remember saying to them, you know, summer of 2020 was supposed to be like the pandemic and everything else. I simply call it the scamdemic. Um,
That's true. I agree.
but even
I
with
agree.
all of the numbers that they threw out at us, the death counter that was hacked, and the numbers were falsified. But even if the numbers were true that they put on the screen, on the television screen for everybody to see and to create fear and all other stuff in people, even if it weren't true, 18 million people dying every year from coronary heart disease, you want to call a pandemic? That's the pandemic right there. That's what needs to be called the pandemic, not this stupid COVID thing. So I'm not going to go too far down that trail, but it's these are staggering numbers, and yet they're getting ignored. Here's the other thing that I wanted to mention around doctors. Okay, so first of all, let me preface this. Most doctors, there are a lot of doctors out there, okay, that have their heart in the right place, and they're really trying to do good by people. However, what a lot of them don't understand is that they have been educated and trained by an outdated and very broken system. And so they're actually doing harm and they don't know it. That's the detrimental part of it. Because here's the thing, in all of the years of doctors schooling, studying, everything that they've been taught. So what? I don't know. That's a span of 8-10 years for a lot of them. There's a lot of medical school that they have to go through, a lot of different things, the credentials that they have to go to get where they are today. But in all of that time of education and study, they might, and that's a big word, might receive 1 semester in nutrition. They are not trained to give us solutions. No, that system is training them to, oh, you've got this problem? Well, here, take this. Oh, now you've got this problem? Okay, here, take this. That's what they're being trained in. Now, I'll go a little deeper with this and speaking to the doctors that are making profit off of that. Now, these are the doctors that are in bed with everybody else. These are the ones, they know exactly what they're doing, but they're doing it for profit. These are the ones that get the kickbacks from the pharmacy companies. These are the ones that get the kickbacks from assigning vaccines to people. I might have to edit that word out because YouTube doesn't like the word vaccine. Um,
Jibber jab. Let's call it jibber jab.
these are the people that are signing jabs to people. Let me make a note real quick.
Jibber jabs. I like to call them
Jabs.
jibber jabs.
Yeah, jibby jabs. 26-minute mark. Okay.
26.
Well,
Very
yeah,
good.
because it helps me to find it. So I don't have to like listen to everything. So it
Yeah, yeah.
saves me
I
time.
get it.
That's why I write that down. Um, it's insane. It is literally insane. 2 years ago, I had my mom switch from the traditional doctor to a well-rounded holistic doctor. I've got to say, what a freaking difference. I'm hearing things out of my mom's doctor's mouth that I've never heard out of another medical doctor's mouth. I mean, and that's a very good thing, is what I'm
Yeah,
prefacing that
yeah,
at. I'm hearing
yeah.
things like that she is encouraging my mom to daily, as much as possible, go out and put her bare feet in the grass and get in grounding and
Wow.
things like that. You don't hear that from traditional medical doctors. Uh,
No, that remember, gotta remember, I worked with these guys for 10 years. So I know exactly what they get up to. They never ever talk about nutrition. Never.
no,
I never
they're not
in
taught.
any of the conversations, in any of the interviews I ever sat through, because we have to sit there if they're aggressive. We'd have to sit there with them and listen to the interviews. Never ever did I ever hear what have you been eating for the last couple of weeks?
Right?
Nothing about that.
If
Now
they
I've
do,
got something to add.
uh, oh, go ahead and add that, and then I've got another comment for that.
So I got something else to add. So I actually had uh, I used to Airbnb one of the rooms that I was staying, unit I was staying in, and I had a doctor stay with me. He was Korean born, but he actually had an intern here in Australia, internship as a medical doctor, and he stayed with me for about 3 weeks. and he ate garbage. He ate absolute garbage. And I'd say to him, and he'd go into my fridge, and all I had was salads, meat, salads, soups. I had a couple of soups. It was winter time, so and he was like, oh, so he had to go off and buy what he wanted, and it was absolute garbage. And I said to him, mate, you're going to get type 2 diabetes eventually, because he was having a really high sugar meal. And I said, don't they teach you this at uni? Don't they, like, it's 7 years? And he said, yeah, it's 7 years. I said, how long do they teach you nutrition? He said, it's 2.5 weeks. 2.5 weeks out of the
You
seven
might
year degree.
receive a semester. See that's right on. So continue.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, really? He said, yeah. Um, we don't ever, we rarely ever talk about nutrition. It's all about medication. And he was like, but I can't change the system. And he was like, what am I going to do?
Mhm.
I said, all you have to do is ask him. And then the funny thing, what the funny thing is, Ken? Now, even for me in practice, because that's one of the questions I ask people. And mightn't be the first consultation, but after the second or third, I probably will ask them. Because people are just so uh, brainwashed,
Mm-hmm. That's the right word for
coerced,
it. Yep.
coerced into believing that they shouldn't be asked by their doctor about what they're eating, that they get offended when you ask them, what are you eating? That's why I don't ask them the first one, because I'm trying to get their trust. I'm trying to get um, a connection. And if I start saying, what are you eating? Well, then they're going to go, going to get defensive. So it's very frustrating, because I've got to be, I've got to, I can't be upfront and ask, because they feel offended because their GP never asked them. The GP only does one thing, and that's write up notes. And this is really scary. If you've got a doctor that does this, I'd be going to someone else, Googling what's wrong with you. Now, I've heard this happen a few
Oh,
times.
I've never, fortunately, never had that experience, but wow, are you kidding me?
Yep. I've had a few patients tell me that, oh, yeah, the doctor had to Google what was wrong with me. Okay. So, as I said, when it comes to nutrition, I'm pretty damn sure that 99% of them have no idea, GPs I'm talking about, have no idea about nutrition and what you should be eating. There is only two answers you're going to get from a GP, from a medical doctor, and that's medication and a referral for who? Surgery. And then if it's a chronic problem, they'll probably screw
Okay.
around with you for about 2 years, medication wise. And then if that doesn't work, you might get 3 years out of them. If that doesn't work, then they'll go, oh, we're going to send you to the surgeon, to the specialist. And then if that doesn't work, they're going to send you back to the medical doctor and say, well, let's try some medication for the next few years and see what happens. That's the system. And then
I do have
it's
one
like a
thing to
revolving.
add to that system, though. So there is a third thing that you will hear. So if you do get advice from your doctor on nutritionally, because my mom's urologist is a classic example of this. His advice to my mom, because my mom never wants to have kidney stones again. And so his advice to my mom, and it's been like this a couple times, is stay away from red meats, limit your saturated fats, and, all this other jargon and junk. And every time he says that to my mom, I have to bite my tongue to not embarrass my mom, because she knows. She knows, she looks at me, she sees me, she knows that I am biting my tongue, because I'm the one that's done all the deep research around this. I didn't have to be taught or anything like that. As a matter of fact, most days, uh, nowadays, I value the people that have done the real research and the real work on their own and have earned their experience through their own personal experience and have earned their experience through, you know, all the things like that and not been taught through the school system. Nowadays, I actually value those people and set them higher above everybody else, because the system's broken. But yeah, that is the third thing that I would add to that whole scenario. So you either get told medicine or you get told surgery, or the third, you get told stay away from meats and saturated fats and blah blah blah, all that jargon. And it's just, I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? That is like the most outdated stuff. There are so many studies out there. There's so much out there that shows saturated fats and red meats are nutritionally dense and they're good for you. Yeah. So that's what I'll say about that.
Yeah, well, that was the other thing is when I first started studying. One of the first subjects I did was chemistry. We had to do three of them. Right? It was ridiculous. I don't know why. Because I went to a private college, instead of having 3 or 4 subjects per semester, we had friggin' 7. So they always stick one. I think we had to do 3 chemistry, and I had to do this assignment on. We had to pick a macronutrient, so carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, and I chose fats, and it was amazing. It blew me away because the thing is with meats, like, let me reiterate. So with carbohydrates, you can't avoid it. It's in everything. It's in meat. It's in everything. Can't avoid it. It's in everything. But fats are in most of our animal meats, but they're the bright fats. They're the good fats.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go into bad and good later. But yeah, I was quite amazed. But fat can't, what do you call it, be transferred without proteins. So protein is very, very important because it's one of the major transporters. It's in our blood.
Yes.
RBCs, red blood cells, are made up of what? Proteins, fat, and protein.
And cholesterol.
So, yeah, cholesterol. So, but cholesterol is
That's a
hands or
whole
keys.
nother topic.
Hands or keys. No.
Oh,
It,
Ansel Keys, that
it,
guy's a
it's
piece of work.
well, he's passed away, I believe. He's not alive anymore.
Yeah, well,
But
still, I've ran into a few of it, like studies that I, read about him, and I'm just like, oh, this guy's a piece of work.
so if no one knows, there's a 7 country study.
Yeah.
He did that, and he cherry picked his countries, and like France, for instance, he didn't pick France, and they've got a high fat, high protein diet, and they weren't getting high incidence of cardiovascular disease. So it didn't support his theory that the high fat diet was causing cholesterol and high protein diet. But then the problem with that is everything got turned around, and like I said, I think I've said to you before, Ken, you've only got a choice of 3 macronutrients, and that's fats, carbs, and protein. So if you take away one, you've only got 2 left. So if you take away the fat, well, you've only got protein and carbohydrates left. So, and guess what? Carbohydrates are really easy to mass produce and cheaper to produce in comparison to proteins. So what do? They made everything simple carbohydrate condensed. So that's why we have these high processed foods that are full of carbohydrates. And people will say, I don't eat much sugar. Well, carbohydrates are sugar. Your liver doesn't care what you think. Your liver does not care what you think. Your liver is a machine. It just says, that looks like glucose. I'm going to turn it into glucose. Thanks very much for coming. So, yeah, and then, yeah, look what's happened. Now we've got this type 2 diabetes epidemic and cardiovascular disease epidemic. Why? Because if you've got too much sugar in your bloodstream, too much carbohydrates in your bloodstream, it causes inflammation everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it does. And then you get all these side effects like peripheral neuropathy and so many other problems. They lose their sight. They can go on and on about the symptoms. But yeah, and then to go back to the GPs, look, I I feel for them because if they speak out, they lose their license.
Yes.
That's the way it is. And, there's a gentleman in the late 2000s. I forgot his name. He was a GP, and he got rolled over the coals for saying telling someone live because Facebook had just come out then, I believe, and he did a live demonstration with a patient and helped to reverse their type 2 diabetes. And he all he did was tell him to eat the high fat, high protein diet. That was it. And they took his license from him. He fought them for a decade. It was almost what was it, 2019 or 2020.
Mm-hmm.
He got his license back because he was fighting them for that long because of one incident where no one got hurt. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it is.
And then I mean, and um he ended up getting his license back, and I think he's taken him to town now for all his solicitor fees. It would have cost him a fortune. But I mean, he was that 1%. He was that 1% that wanted to ask the question, "What are you eating?" And this is what we can do to kick this to the curb. And yeah, that's the problem. That's where the system is really broken because the powers to be are saying that we should be eating Hansel Keys's ideas. And the problem is now we've got an epidemic of type 2 diabetes. And you can't it's so obvious now. For me, it's so obvious. People out there probably are thinking, what? What do you mean it's so obvious? Well, I mean, you think about it. They're trying to poison us with foods that are high in carbohydrates, and they know because they've known about this since the 50s. They were doing research on this in the 50s and 60s about how carbohydrates can cause chronic disease, the top 8 chronic disease in Australia. And they've known about this for many, many years. So, and if you speak against them, then they just take your license off you. You can't consult with anyone anymore. Now that's dictatorship, and they don't care. They don't care and their answer is basically, we'll make you sick, and then here's some medication for the rest of your life to manage. Manage. The important word here is manage.
Yes.
Your health until you die.
I agree.
And hopefully you'll live for 40 years paying us all the money that you ever worked for when you were younger. And thanks very much for coming. It's all about money. It's all about money. It's not about your health.
Yeah, no,
definitely
100%. It's all about money. Even the food pyramid, the mainstream food pyramid that came out in the 1990s, 1990, 1992. If you look at that, we're supposed to have 6 to 11 servings of starches, carbs, and all that stuff, and just a small serving of proteins.
Yeah.
Any logical, critical thinking person will look at that and see the absurdity of that and what it is, and see it for what it is. That's the word I'm looking for. But yet everybody, so many people fell into that hook, line, and sinker. How and why? Well, one of the reasons is because it was in their face every single day. News was talking about it. Celebrities were talking about it. Governments were talking about it. It was all over the place. If you want something to become the truth, tell the lie enough times and it will become the truth, is basically the way it works. And
Yep.
so everybody got programmed into that, and but it's absurdity because the foods that they were targeting to people to eat were the very foods that this system has made to
Yep.
create addictions in people.
Yep.
The system's foods have literally been designed not for nutrition, not for better health. They have been designed
Yep.
for addiction and profit. And so um, the food pyramid actually was created with that agenda, the agenda of sending people back into their system so that they can make profit off of people's food addictions. Then, to make things worse, they labeled things as healthy when they really are not.
Mm-hmm.
And then to make things even worse, um, it begins to form new neural pathways in your head. It begins to change your taste buds. They actually put certain special chemical ingredients in there that actually block your taste buds from tasting the chemicals that are in those foods. I could go so much deeper with all of this, and I don't want to because we're already hitting that 45-minute mark here. Um, but yeah, this is a deep subject. Like I can go into all of that. People think, oh well, I'm buying this, it's healthy, and I'm buying this nutrition bar and it's healthy and da 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 da. And
Yeah.
I
It's
seriously go out there and I turn it over and I look at the ingredients. I'm like, how can you even call this healthy? I don't even know what half the stuff in this thing is. But see, the thing about it is here's what people are buying into. And then I'll let you, I know I'm going here. I'll let you speak. Here's what people are buying into. So I'll tell this story and then I'm going to switch it back over to you. I remember when I was in Aldi's. So in America, we have this store called Aldi's, and
yeah, yeah. We've got it too. We've got it too.
okay, cool. I was in the checkout line, and it was a fairly long line. We were partially in a food aisle because it was a fairly long line. In front of me was this mom with two kids. Little girl in the cart, little boy outside the cart. Little girl in the cart was sitting there opening things that she wasn't supposed to open. The little boy was running around, not staying put. You could tell the mom was frustrated. She was ready to get out of there. She was ready to pull her hair out. She was getting really aggravated at her daughter. She finally kind of got them to settle down a little bit. She turned around and at the edge of the aisle, almost to an end cap, but just at the very edge of the aisle there, she saw these nutritional bars. And I'll never forget this. She walked over, she picked up the box, she took a glance at the box, took about 3 seconds to look at the front, then reached back for another flavor and put both boxes in the cart. And I was standing there and I went, because I saw the whole thing. I went, I wonder. I went over to those nutrition bars. I turned that box over. There's this long list of ingredients that I couldn't even understand half of them. And I'm going, it made me think, I'm like, this is what the industry is betting on. They are marketing to people like that mom who is busy. She wants to get out of the store. Her kids are driving her crazy. This looks healthy. Look at the front. The front's advertising it, it's a good nutrition bar, only 140 calories, all this other stuff. People easily buy into that. They think it's innocent. They think it's good, and they're feeding their kids good stuff. You turn it over and it's junk. This is what the industry is relying on. So, yeah, back over to you.
So, do you remember the paleo shops? Over here in Australia, paleo was huge, and the high fat, high protein diets.
Paleo, yeah, that's
Uh,
one of, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So,
There's some good and bad
and
things about paleo.
well, these shops were popping up everywhere. Paleo is the theme of the month. And I remember walking into one, and in the front on the counter, there was about 3 or 4 shelves just full of bars, like different types of uh, uh, muesli bars, and I'm thinking, what? This is not paleo. And I'm flipping them over, and yeah, sure enough, full of carbs. 30-40% carbs. I'm like,
And I'll bet
this
you there
is,
was industrial seed oils in there too.
oh, for sure. Yeah, I want to talk about that because uh, when I the problem is most restaurants now use canola oil, 90%,
Canola
and
and
I was
soybean
quite
oil.
yeah soybean because it's cheap. In Australia, it's canola. Canola's the one that they go for. And I've seen the fields in Victoria; they're full of them, full of canola plants. They're growing up. It's disgusting. But the problem is people don't realize is that to extract the oil from the seed, they have to heat it up. Now, the problem with that is it reconstitutes the fat. And then when you get a hold of it and then you cook it, or the restaurant gets it and then they cook it and heat it up, it reconstitutes again. So it mutates
Mm-hmm.
the oil's constitution. Now, the problem with that is your body's not going to recognize it. And what's going to happen is it's going to eventually cause cancer. Sorry to say, if you're worried about cancer, oh, it's genetical, which is I hear a lot. It's a lot of rubbish.
Mm-hmm.
It's these oils that are causing, and
Oxidation.
it's in everything. It's in freaking everything,
Yes.
and all the restaurants use it. But not all of them, but 90% of them are using canola oil in Australia, and it's. I don't eat fish and chips anymore because of that reason.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the canola oil, its stuff is poison,
Very
and the
poison.
problem is, it's just another day in the office for the health department. They just think it's great. It's good for you.
What they don't tell you is that canola oil, especially canola oil, used to be a machine lubricant. It was modified to
Yes,
be edible.
yes. It was for sewing machines. It was used for sewing machines because
Yep.
it's very viscous. It's a thin oil. It's a very watery oil. Because yeah, so they yeah, Singer oil. So I don't know if they got them over there. They got Singer sewing machines. We used to get the Singer oil, and that was friggin' canola oil. Yeah, I
They're
just
all the same.
and it,
All the industrial seed oils are all the same. And I think there's a few others that was actually a lubricant. One of the current clients that I'm working with right now, that was one of the biggest shocking points for him around this oil, around these
yeah,
oils, is finding out it used to be machine lubricants. I'm like, uh-huh.
yeah.
Some of them were used in ink, some of them were used in all kinds of different mechanical things. And
Mhm.
he's like, that kind of like was the shock that he needed to go, oh, I need to like pay attention to this now.
I'll bring up warfarin. So not many people know this. Warfarin is a drug that thin the blood. It's they call it an anticoagulant. So warfarin was originally used as rat bait, as rat poison. So what it did was when the rat ate it, it bled out. Basically, every orifice it started bleeding from. So it's like Ebola. Fantastic, right? And then they realized, oh, in lower doses, we can give it to human beings and um, thin their blood out. So you see what I'm saying? It, they're giving people rat poison. This is how mad the medical system is now. And like we were talking about cholesterol before. That uh, there's a website called www.thennt. So THENNT, and NNT stands for number needed to treat. And it's a research website, and it talks about uh, uh, anti-cholesterol medications, statins, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I, I've said this before on held one's uh, podcast. So Out of 313 people, because I reckon there'd be some people in your audience that are taking this drug, and they wouldn't know this, but out of 313 people that took the drug, the statins drug, that's Crestor, Lipitor, one person didn't have a stroke. So 313 people took the drug. This is after 12 months. One person didn't have a stroke.
This is why
Now,
this is why I say cholesterol, and there's a whole thing that I can talk about on this, but cholesterol should never be something you lower. It's the entirely wrong way of thinking about it altogether.
correct, correct. It's the most important. For your brain structure is very important. A brain is 30%. 90% fat. So you need good fats. You need to have fat. Can't avoid it. You have to have it. So yeah, and I think it was so out of 217 people who took this statins drug, one person didn't have a heart attack. It will not extend your life by 1 day.
No, it will shorten it. And there's studies and stats to prove that as well. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that, and that's what I say to patients. That, if you're taking this drug, if it didn't have harms, I'd say, okay, you've got a really, really slim chance of avoiding a heart attack or stroke, but it has harms. So one in 20 get muscle damage. No, 1 in 10, sorry. 1 in 10 get muscle damage and pain. And 1 in 50, 1 in 50. 1 in 50 get type 2 diabetes. It causes it. So you got a better chance of getting type 2 diabetes and muscle pain. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. Now I'm pulling up something here because I'm gonna read a couple stats. I gotta find it first, but
I'll just bring up one other thing is there was a doctor I was watching an interview and he said in the States, this is the 10-ton gorilla in the room. He said 10,000 US citizens die each week from medical mishaps.
Yes.
Medical mishaps.
Here's some of those stats. So we're talking about shortening lifespans. Well, first of all, from cholesterol lowering medicine, first of all, 80, here's the thing for people listening to realize. And if you really think about it, everything they tell us around cholesterol doesn't make sense, especially with this one stat. 85% of the cholesterol that you get is literally created by your body on its own. Only 15% of it comes from food. Here's the next stat. So according to a 30-year follow-up of the famous Framingham study, deaths from heart disease and all other related issues rose by 11% for every 1% decline in cholesterol. Ooh. And here's the last one. More current studies have found that the lower someone's cholesterol, the more likely they were to die. The risk of dying rose by 22% for every 30 milligram decline in blood cholesterol.
Wow, 22%.
Those are staggering numbers. And they should tell you cholesterol should never be something you lower. For those who are maybe wondering at this point, well, what do we do with cholesterol? Let me just drop this for you. Here's the way you start thinking about cholesterol. How are your cholesterol cells being oxidized? Because what makes cholesterol good or bad is not necessarily the numbers. Actually, the numbers only tell a very, very, very small fraction of the story. The bigger part of the story and what they don't want you to start thinking, the way they don't want you to start thinking, is what makes cholesterol good or bad is the composition of the cells, what they are absorbing, the oxidation, the damage that's happening. That's what makes it good or bad. You can go to the doctor and he can tell you that you have great cholesterol. It's normal. All your levels are normal. If your diet is crap, you are still in grave danger and you don't even know it. So there you go. That's it in a nutshell.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah, so that yeah, that I just couldn't get over that. The 10,000 a week are dying. Your sorry, medical doctor is the major cause of it's going to be probably the cause
Yeah.
of your death. That's nuts. It's was it the do no harm, the the oath that they have to take, the Hippocratic oath,
Yeah.
do no harms. Wow. But I mean, like I said, they can't they can't practice legal medicine because if they speak out, they don't do what they've been taught, and
It's
that comes back to a bigger agenda,
yeah,
bigger
it's
problem.
genocide. It's genocide. That's exactly what that is. Here's one last stat I'll throw out, and then I kind of want to switch gears and kind of start wrapping up a little bit here.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
So, Big Pharma made $1.27 trillion last year. Trillion with a T.
Yeah.
Last year, 2024. But not a single cent was spent on teaching you how to get healthier. Their priority, you guys, is not health, it's profit. So if you're
I,
still go ahead.
I, I'll give you an example. So when I was younger, in the 80s and 90s, we used to have, and even the 70s, we used to have a lot of fruit stores. Fruit stores used to advertise all the time, and but now you don't get any. You get none. All you get is the big supermarkets. So I mean, it, how can people know that there's something out there better for them if it's not advertised?
Exactly.
So I mean, I know in the States it's pretty bad. Like we get limited. We do get medication adverts, but I know you guys get hammered. You get adverts every couple of minutes
Yeah.
on medication, and I understand, why people are taking so much of it because it's in their face every day. But it's no different with the food industry. Like Australia is just like the States. You can't go down the road without running into a fast food store. You just can't avoid it, especially in the built up areas.
Mm.
So, I mean, I feel sorry for everyone because they they think it's normal now. They think it's normal to have a crap meal 3 times a day because it's just saturation. They they're saturated with advertising. Like when I was a kid, it was you were lucky to get 1 or 2 ads a day from the food industry. Now it's and especially when I was really young, we had I think the first fast food store. Do they have Domino's over there?
Domino's
Domino's
Pizza.
Pizza. That was the first fast food chain that came over here. McDonald's came very soon after.
Ugh, McDonald's.
Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah, well, I got a funny story about Jamie Oliver, McDonald's. Yeah, he said that they used ammonia to clean the patties, and McDonald took him to court and said, "You're what do you call it? Defaming us." And it was a lawsuit. And he said, "Well, sorry to say, here's the evidence. Here it's all on paper. It's your evidence that you actually, I went and researched." So they put themselves in the booth, and he won the court case. So,
Oh, it's much worse than that with McDonald's.
oh yeah, it's
We're not going to get
I,
into that here because then there's some people that will go, they will have some major cognitive dissonance with the stuff that I know about McDonald's. We won't get
yeah.
into that, but yeah, McDonald's, I really believe, is at the lowest of the absolute lows from everything that I know.
Well, in Australia, just about every major hospital has a Ron McDonald house beside it.
From what I know, that makes me nauseous. That makes me really, really uneasy and nauseous.
So this is where families can stay while their kid's sick
Yeah.
in the hospital. Ronald McDonald House.
And even the
So
hospitals that don't have it, still hospital foods, their snacking sections, their cafeteria, seed oils. I mean, and and I'm like, this is where sick people are going, and you're feeding them this crap.
and I'm sorry to say that most medical, like not all of them, but most medical nurses, doctors, I'm talking about, yeah, and then the assistants, wardsmen, and most of them are drug addicts. Most of them are taking something because they're in that environment. They're in that environment where you're eating garbage, you have crap working cycles, you're in a high pressure situation, and you're watching people die.
Mm.
So that they they were just like me. They were no different. They were just like me. I was taking medication because I couldn't sleep properly. And then, yeah, the problem is then you get addicted, especially the opioids and the
Hmm.
Valium.
Yes.
Um, and I mean, they've got access. They have access. That's the way it is. And then, yeah, then I could go into old age care facilities, and that's even cool. That's even worse again. It's brutal. Don't go into an aged care facility.
Oh no.
Try and
Yeah.
stay at home. Try and stay at home. Get someone to come to you.
Um, so okay, in wrapping up, let's kind of home in on talking about this. So one of the things I know we wanted to talk about on this episode is healthy habits. And I think we've dismantled the mirage of this system enough in front of people. Let's talk about what it looks like to get out of that system
All right.
and
All right.
develop some healthy habits. What does that look like?
So yeah, I always talk about the three pillars. So the first pillar is to eat fresh. Pretty simple. Stay away from processed foods. Um, Try and have as clean a water as you can. I know that's difficult, but try and as clean a water as you can. Alkaline, as alkaline of foods you can, and also water, because cancer doesn't like an alkaline state. Um, and food. The second pillar is exercise. You need to move every
Mm,
day, even if it's just around the block. Just walk around the block. Um, and the third one, which is the hardest one, is to keep your mind and your heart quiet. That's the hard one. So how do I do it? I use meditation. You can use other. I use EFT as well, emotional freedom technique. And Chinese medicine. I use acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine. I had a serious valve issue in my heart. I didn't go to the doctors because I knew exactly what answer I was going to get, and I used herbal medicine to resolve that. So yeah, so as I said, if uh, your mind is racing too much in Chinese medicine, that means your heart. There's going to be something wrong with your heart.
mm,
So and and that keeping the heart and mind quiet, you're going to sleep better. But that comes back to the other two pillars. If you're exercising every day and eating properly,
mhm.
then you're going to sleep better. You're going to be calmer. You're going to keep your composure better, and you'll make better decisions as well. So my mentor says, he says you probably have about two great thoughts a year. Two thoughts that actually make a difference in your life. But the rest is just garbage. It's just the monkey mind, he calls it. So yeah, if you can keep that monkey mind away and keep the working mind happening, yeah, you'll go a long way. Your life will change.
100%.
Your life will change.
100% agree. I'm going to add to that on what you said. So it's going to sound similar, but I'm just going to add to the tips that you gave there. So there's three people there's three things that I give my clients when they're working with me, because when they first start working with me, they go through one of my educational boot camps, which I'm now calling my mothership, because that literally will dismantle that literally. So it's got a shock factor to it because I go deep. I show you the lies of the industry, how the industry is profiting off of you, and the marketing deceptions of that industry. And time after time, I've had people come through and they feel like I have dismantled their entire world. Like, what do we do now? And so there's three things that I give people. It cannot get any simpler than this, because I've tried to make it as simple as possible to understand. Now, don't get me wrong, these may be simple concepts, but there's an entire journey that needs to happen from, after you get the foundation and then moving forward. It's not an overnight process. It needs to be sustainable. It needs to be step by step. There needs to be a journey. But here's the three things. Number one, it's right back here on my sign. Turn the freaking thing over. I don't care where you're at. I don't care if you're in the regular grocery store. I don't care if you're in a so-called health store. I don't care if you're in Trader Joe's. I don't care if you're in a Sprouts. Turn it over. All of those places, including the so-called health stores, no, you can't trust them. They are to be treated just as much as a regular grocery store. Develop the habit of always turning it over. Don't take things for granted. Even if it's something you've bought for years, turn it over. Look at the ingredients. Start educating yourself on those ingredients. Number two, buy things with minimal ingredients and ingredients you can understand. Or number three, better yet, buy things with one ingredient. An example, a grass-fed bone-in ribeye steak. What are the ingredients in that? One, meat. There you go. Anything to add to that?
Yeah. So I tell my clients and patients that try and keep your carbohydrate. If it's processed, try and keep your carbohydrate level under 10%. The problem with that is that pretty much everything is over 10%.
Yeah.
You're going to find. So, and yeah, and that's what I say is there's only three places you should go in a supermarket, and that's the fruit and veg section,
Yeah.
the deli section where the meats are, and then checkout. That's it. If you go into the only time I go into the middle section is for the spices and the good oils, olive oil, macadamia oil, coconut oil.
Okay.
But that's it. That's the only time I ever go into the middle lanes. All the rest is garbage. Even milk, like everyone seems to love milk. It's garbage. It's absolute garbage.
Unless you're getting raw milk. I've heard a lot of good things about raw milk.
Yeah, well, the problem is in Australia it's banned. So
Yeah. No,
you
I've
get
heard that too. So here's what I'm going to add to the carb thing. What I teach is simple. There is no essential carb. Now, what I did not say is don't have any carbs, because I do believe that carbs can be used when they're used strategically and intentionally. They can be really useful, such as, if you had a really involved, intense workout, then in that aspect, the next meal that you have should contain carbs, because it'll help to restore those energy stores that you just used up. That's a good use of carbs, but you do not need them with every single meal. Make your meals protein priority rich. And that should be your first foundation on how you build the meals you have. The other thing that I will say in regard to that, yeah, there is no essential carb. And the other challenge that I'm going to bring to the audience here is, where did the concept of breakfast come from? The
Yeah,
concept of
it's,
eating that first meal of the day, starting your metabolism, setting your day
uh,
right, all the things that we've been told all these years, right? Where did that come from? Because I'm going to
Mr.
tell you,
Kellogg's.
yes,
Mr.
yes,
Kellogg's.
he's got it. I'm going to tell you, it's not scientific. And there's no doctor that came up with it. Kellogg's and General Mills came up with that slogan back in the early years to get people to buy more of
30s,
their
yeah, 30s.
cereals. Yep.
Yeah, break
That's where that
fast.
came
So
from. Huh?
break fast. Break
Break
fast. So
fast.
it used to be a
That's
fast.
exactly what it is. That's what it is. But we've been programmed and conditioned breakfast. And this,
Yeah,
and we kind of mesh it together, and we've forgotten what it really means. It's break fast. There is no most important meal of the day. So I'm going to challenge some of you guys thinking that you're eating multiple meals per day is actually helping you. In the aspect of insulin, it could actually be doing more damage than you think, because our bodies
yeah, that's
also
right.
were not meant to spike insulin multiple times per day. I would introduce the thought of sustainably, and please key into that word, sustainably adapting intermittent fasting into your life as a lifestyle. So anything you want to speak into on that?
Yeah, yeah. I do the 16/8 every now and then. So that's 16 hours of fasting and 8 hours of eating. So I found the best time is 11 a.m. till 7 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
because most people will have lunch with you or dinner with you, but they won't have breakfast with you. So it's just easier to manage if you do it at that time.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can, yeah, you can do that. That's I've got no problem with that.
Yeah.
I mean, in certain cultures and religions, they fast for days on end, and I mean, the old Jesus did it for 40 days. Um, and I know someone who's done that. My mentor's done it. He did it for 40 days.
Wow.
Um,
Kudos to him,
yeah,
because I'm like, I couldn't do that.
yeah. Well, he was a monk in India, so he you know, but he doesn't do anything. They're just meditating around the clock, so that there's no energy to be expended. So that, drinking water all day is easy peasy, and you're not doing anything.
Mm.
And yeah, so he was a fruitarian for a few years. He was a vegetarian for I don't know how many years, because in the monastery he couldn't eat meat, and then he realized he was dislocating his ankle badly every few months. And then anyway, he went and had a burger.
All of a
This is back in
sudden,
the
things
70s.
strengthen back up. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, this is back in the 80s. Sorry, late 70s, early 80s. Yeah, ended up getting out of the monastery. He started eating meat again, and yeah, got his strength back.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, look, you can still get fat vegetarians and vegans. Why?
Yes, 100%.
Because corn chips are friggin' vegetarian.
80 to 90% of vegans and vegetarians will eventually end up nutritionally deficient somewhere down the line. In the beginning, sure, I'm gonna say you might feel
Yeah,
great. You might feel great in the first year of it. And that's all good and
yeah,
everything. But somewhere down the line, unless you're the small 5 to 10% that's actually doing vegetarian and vegan properly and working really hard at it, 85 to 90% of the people will eventually, somewhere down the line, end up nutritionally deficient. There is study after study after study that proves it.
yeah. You need protein. As I said before, that my mentor, the same one, he did insulin tests. So what he was doing, because he sees 500 people a week.
Mm-hmm.
So what he was doing was he was getting them to eat, with their permission, of course. They'd eat something like uh, peanuts, for instance, which is a lentil, and that's what most vegetarians eat. as a protein supplement. Um, but the problem is the body doesn't treat or convert the peanut into protein. It converts it into glucose. How did he know that? Because he did insulin tests and he found that the insulin went up. So the body doesn't treat it as a protein; it treats it as a glucose. So if you're vegetarian, you think that you're getting your proteins from nuts and legumes and the likes. Uh, Sorry to say, no. The body doesn't treat it that way. It treats it as though it's a
Yeah.
glucose, not a protein.
Ooh, we
Unfortunately.
get on a whole nother subject regarding insulin, but we're running out of time here. Wow.
But yeah. So fasting is good. It gives your liver a break because the liver is the one that
Yeah,
has to do all the hard work, and the pancreas and gallbladder. They all have to work together.
100%.
So yeah.
So, in closing up today's episode, what are 3 to 5 powerful things that you would want to leave the audience with today?
So like I said, the 3 pillars. Stick to the 3 pillars. So eat as fresh as possible. Exercise, and when I say exercise, I mean um, uh, just moving. You don't have to overdo it. Don't move too much, and move too little. So
Mm.
don't be sedentary. Of course, you need to move every day, and then, as I said, keep your mind and your heart quiet. And use other methods. I use meditation and EFT and walking. I do meditation while I walk. I cheat, so I do the exercise and the meditation at the same time.
Mm.
And also be kind to yourself. Be very, very kind to yourself,
Yeah.
because we have too many. You're an idiot. Why'd
Right.
you do that for?
Right.
Thoughts. You need to correct yourself and say, "Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, you did something wrong. That's okay. We learn from it, and we're gonna not going to do it again." And be positive. Use positive. You did really well today. Give yourself a pat on the back. Be kind to yourself, because if you're kind to yourself, guess what's going to happen? It's going to spread to others. You're going to
Yes.
be kind to others. That's the dominoes effect. So yeah, that's pretty much in a nutshell, Ken.
Amazing. Amazing. How can people reach out to you if they want to connect with you and work with you?
So I've got a website, www.sixthense acupuncture, acupuncture.com.au. Yes, I'm in Australia. And if you go to my website, I've got a health club. I've got the Healthy Habits Club as well, as you can see in the background. I do herbal medicine as well on the website. You can see it. If you go to the Contact Us section, it actually you can buy herbs from me internationally. I have international clients,
Ooh.
and yeah. And also obviously the health club is all online, so you can just join online. Same with the Healthy Habits Club; it's all online. Just join online. Um, and also I explain about acupuncture, Chinese herbal medicine, and what separates me from other acupuncturists is I can do pulse diagnosis.
Mm.
So so I just feel the radial artery here in the wrist, and it tells me what's going on. So I'm one of 5, I believe, that can actually do it in Australia.
That's amazing. Wow. So you
Yeah,
guys
so I can tell if.
go ahead.
Sorry, you're right. So I can tell if you've got kidney stones, gallstones, if you've got a mitral valve leakage, body valve leakage. I can tell a lot of things just by the pulse. It's
Interesting.
actually, yeah, I can tell if you've got a baby boy or baby girl if you're pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, they had to. This comes from the emperor's court, so the emperor's physician had to. He had to. He had to be spot on, or else lost his head.
That's amazing. Wow. Wow. So you guys, it should be really evident to you. Look, reach out to Scott, ask questions, get on his website, check out all the things, and you'll find the his bio and the links to connect with Scott right below this video in the description and all of that. And so, lastly, before I close up today's episode, maybe this is your first time watching. Maybe you don't know who I am or anything like that and how all this connects. Well, it should be really obvious to you right now. I am also a health coach, but more specifically, I am a mastery weight loss coach. Mastery weight loss is my brand. Um, and it's mastery because that's exactly what the journey should look like. You get to master the journey, you get to own the journey. It's not a destination. So that's why it's mastery weight loss. So right now, actually, before I go into that, so I've lost 62 and a half pounds and I've kept it off for 7+ years now, all without a diet and having that be sustainable. And right now, I'm giving away my 3 secrets to help you to lose weight, feel energized, get healthy without starving or dieting in just 3 short one-on-one sessions with me through my mini educational boot camp, which you also heard me talk a little bit about today. I expose the 3 biggest lies that are keeping people sick, stuck, and overweight because that's how that industry makes money. And I show them how to fuel their body God's way so that they can break free and finally keep the weight off for life like I've been able to do, all in just 3 short one-on-one sessions with me. That boot camp is an educational boot camp. It's not an eating plan and it's not a workout plan. It is a foundation for you to stand on and never be moved from again. You've got nothing to lose but those extra pounds, and you've got everything to gain in the right way and in a very freeing way. So the link to check out that boot camp will also be below in the description. So Scott's stuff will be first. You'll see his bio and links and all the stuff there. And then you go below that and you'll see the link to join my boot camp, as well as other links to connect with me, including a link to book a free strategy call with me if you've got any questions, and allow me to unpack those for you and give you a little bit of a strategy. Anyhow, with that, you guys, as we conclude today, Scott, do you have anything else that you want to add or share with the audience?
Well, actually, I'm going to give some freebies away too. So, uh, if you've been watching this webinar, then I'm going to give away
Interview.
my bronze interview. That my bronze membership. So that's we're going to give away for free for 30 days if you're watching this interview. And yeah, it's worth 11 Australian dollars for 30 days. And yeah, God bless. And yeah, it's got 9 modules in it. So I teach you about meditation, I teach you about EFT, I teach you about exercise, I teach you about Chinese medicine, I teach you about acupuncture and the 8 chronic diseases, what causes it, how to kick it to the curb. And so yeah, it's all for free. So yeah, if you're watching this, I'll give Ken the what do you call it, the password
Yeah,
to get your free 30-day trial.
the
Thanks very
coupon.
much, Ken.
Yeah, the coupon. That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
amazing. Thank you so much for that, Scott. Amazing gift for those who are listening here on this episode. So with that, you guys, have a great rest of your day or evening, depending on where you are in the world and what time of day you are listening. And I will catch you on the next expert interview with Ken. Scott, it's been a pleasure having you on this show. And we will talk to you later.
Pleasure's all mine, brother. Pleasure's all
Amen.
mine, brother. Thank you very much.